My name is Matthew Marston, product management here at Cisco Meraki. I'm on the MV side of the house. That's our smart camera line, and I work predominantly on the camera intelligence team. And I'm excited to share with you today redefining the edge intelligence with MV Sense. First and foremost, the platform is meant to be and designed to be scalable. Cloud management is a given that we're part of Meraki, but fundamentally on the edge of every one of our devices, there's industrial grade solid state storage from 256 gigs all the way up to a terabyte. There's an 8-core Qualcomm Snapdragon processor built on the Cortex X53, as well as an advanced DSP and GPU. All that's enabling advanced intelligence and processing directly on the edge. So what we do is we process and store that video directly on the edge of every device, and then we leverage the cloud for simplification, right? We send very efficiently that metadata back to our cloud infrastructure, much like we do with all the rest of our products for a myriad of different use cases to talk about here in a moment. The bottom line is no NVR, no VMSs, no other three-letter acronyms that would translate to server infrastructure and ultimately cost and complexity for administrating these traditional security systems inside of an environment. You get rid of all of that. What we also do is we're built from the ground up to be fundamentally secure. And we do so directly on the hardware, first and foremost. We've got a TPM that's embedded into every single one of our cameras that makes sure that that firmware that it's running is signed by us and is running safely and securely. We also encrypt video both locally on device as well as automatically end-to-end. We do automated certificate management, a bunch of really cool things in the background so that whether our customers know it or not, they're safe and secure no matter where they need to access their video. We have automatic updates directly inside of or from our cloud to our devices via firmware, via front end, you name it. But we also have secure provisioning of user accounts for segmentation of access specific to video requirements because it's a different beast, right? Because you don't just have your IT guys inside the mix, you've also now got physical security, you've got loss prevention, you've got a number of different personas. That also then translates to the need for that agility of access. Because we're cloud managed and we store and process everything on the edge, you need that ability to be able to access that directly from your dashboard, whether that's locally and pulling streams to local across your infrastructure, or remotely and automatically and safely security receiving these video streams end to end. Whether again that business unit that is responsible for managing your cameras is equipped to handle this otherwise. We leverage our browser-based dashboard, but we also have a mobile app as well as a progressive web app, for any of your streaming needs. Now, again, I'm going to focus on the smarts today. This is everything from our motion detection analytics, as well as the ability to detect people, vehicles, as well as like sound analytics, right? The ability to detect sirens and alarms inside of your environment. This is all offered via what we call our MV Sense service. And these edge analytics transition us from just simply being a physical security to now introducing business intelligence for a variety of different use cases centered around those specific types I just mentioned. We do so by efficiently and effectively deploying an ML model of our own creation directly at the edge of our cameras and use the edge processing in order to deliver these insights via MQTT, or a very lightweight telemetry protocol. A slightly more verbose and zoomed in version of this is that input, right? Whether it's video or it's your other sensors that might be on the edge of our devices, lux, audio, all of these serve as sensory inputs inside of an environment that can be piped into an ML model that we have running on the edge to produce outcomes. And right now, this takes the form of, again, people detection, vehicle detection, motion analytics, you name it. We enable our ecosystem and our customers to be able to consume this via an MQTT client that's running directly on the edge of our device. And using an MQTT broker and a publisher-subscriber relationship, you can subscribe to that feed of real-time sub-second object detections, as well as the location of those objects, in order to produce these outcomes.
Now, Matthew, you mentioned on that previous slide people recognition. Do you do the next level into facial recognition and then extend into loss prevention type use cases?
So I expected this question to come up, and I'm glad that you asked it. And fundamentally, we do not do facial recognition. And we do that explicitly and purposefully. The reason that we've done this is because we recognize that while there are valid use cases for facial recognition, there's a lot of situations where facial recognition can be used for malintent. And in a cloud-connected world and the simplicity that we deliver through our platform, introducing technology that we fundamentally see as being potentially harmful or challenging to certain demographics is something that, a line that we intend to never cross. So I'll come back to elements of that, but that's our Cisco Meraki stance on that topic. I want to put a pin in NVSense for a moment and just talk about the broader scope. Not everybody here is an ML, CV, or machine learning computer vision expert. So I want to just talk through what this experience looks like for our customers, for our ecosystem partners, and how we're evolving this story both internally and externally from Meraki. When we talk about computer vision or just AI models running on our cameras, we generally hear it framed as such. You've got some problem, you've got a business outcome that you're trying to get to, and then somewhere in between is this nebulous notion of an AI model is going to help me get there. And while this process flow is relatively accurate, there's a lot more that's at stake, right? There's a lot more that's happening behind the scenes. And this is that segment of the creation, right? If we view the blue as the creation lifecycle of taking that problem statement and then coming to an understanding of how we can develop specifically a machine learning computer vision solution that is predicated on what can my cameras see? What can they do as sensors in my environment to be able to deterministically, repeatably detect an event is happening, right? If I'm looking at a scene, what is happening and what can I consistently detect on in order to produce that, again, that specific outcome all the way downstream? Once you've made that assertion, you then need to collect data, and sometimes a lot of it. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more, but trust me when I say that data collection piece is fraught with many challenges, not just in terms of how you build it in the first place, but how you do so the right way. Then you get into the training. And I know that I'm oversimplifying this here, but these are the nuts and bolts. You take that data that you've collected, that raw data, you annotate it and you make it ready for then running through an automated training pipeline. And this is where I'm grateful that Ryan was able to lead in before me, because what I can at least mention here is that we're leveraging Kubernetes and Kubeflow to automate these processes and to dynamically spin up certain compute resources in order to intelligently train and retrain our models on into the future. Right? With it behind the scenes, that's what we're doing within Cisco Meraki. But finally, you get to an AI model, right? You get to that product of this creation lifecycle. What do you do with it? Well, this is where that solution phase comes in, right? This is, I now have an AI model, which, as I'd shown before, we deliver seamlessly directly to the edge of our cameras. And so that data, that input video stream gets parsed through that AI model, and then we produce an output, right? That MQTT telemetry stream are those raw inferences that we're delivering into business logic, and then finally being able to deliver into business outcomes. This doesn't live in a vacuum either. It's not a one and done. And unfortunately, sometimes this can be a very long and iterative process if you don't have the tooling, if you don't have the understanding of how to do this at scale. You may come to a notion that that initial problem to AI model, I deployed it at my first 5 locations and it worked perfectly. And as soon as I added another location or two, I'm starting to see some issues. And the problem with that is data is evolving, right? The different locations are going to have different sources of environments. They're going to have a number of different parameters. And so as we at Cisco Meraki are striving to improve, we need to make sure that we are constantly improving the accuracy of these models that are providing detections on the edge of our devices. Otherwise, you end up with situations like this. And these are directly taken from our cameras, by the way. Detecting an incorrect number of people inside the Cisco connected store, mistaking other objects for people, missing people in a crowded scene. There are other instances of this, but ultimately this translates to either false positives, I detected a person, but in fact there was not one there, or more perniciously, false negatives. There's supposed to be a person detected there, but we missed it, right? Both of these are outcomes that are challenges because diversity of data is key. If you don't have input data that is representative of all of your environments, you're going to have challenges. You're going to have those missed detections. You're going to have other types of issues. And ultimately, this translates to when we're collecting data to retrain our models, we need it from as diverse a data set as possible. That's different viewing angles and different mounting heights. That's different lighting conditions, right? Is it natural light versus fluorescent? Is it indoor versus outdoor? Is it different weather conditions? Is it this? Is it that, right? I can go on and on. The different clothing or vehicle makes and models and types. All of these attributes and more contribute to whether or not a model is going to be performant across the entire location of a notion of locations that it needs to be performing inside of. We get this question a lot, and I definitely wanted to dive into it because I think it's interesting to talk about. Why don't you just use generalized data sets? There's a lot of stuff out there. Why don't you just use this and fast track? Well, as the title belies already, generalized data sets and models won't work. And I think looking at the COCO data set, not to take anything from it, but Common Objects and Context has, among other things, object segmentation with over 200,000 labeled images. And most importantly, over 250,000 labeled people or annotated people inside of this data set. And if you want to take a look, cocodataset.org, #explore. This sounds great. Why don't we just use this? Well, you can go to that Explore link that I just mentioned. You can actually see and you can look through some of the data that has been annotated. That's part of that fundamental data annotated data set. And these are two images that were from, I filtered on people, and literally these are two of the images that were in the top 10 of results. As you can imagine, a person holding a hot dog, or rather a person's hand holding a hot dog, and a person, musing over their term paper aren't exactly related to the security context that we need to train on, right? And this goes back to one other comment that I'd failed to mention before, which is we're optimizing for models to run directly at the edge. We need to be laser focused on exactly what we're intending to train our model on so that we make sure that we have as great a performance as is possible on directly the specific hardware that we're running these models for our cameras today. This problem isn't lost on the industry. Data quality is literally $1 billion industry. Scale AI is one that I've mentioned in the top here, presently valued at now north of $7 billion. And among their services are that premium data curation services, as well as MLAI assisted data annotation services, as well as model creation and deployment services as well. And I run the spectrum, the whole gamut there. If you go to their website, right at the very top, the first thing you see is better data, better AI. Another key player in the industry, SamaSource, or now Sama, high quality training data when you need it, directly on their dashboard. If you look at Appen, the very first thing you see, have confidence to launch AI projects with world-class training data. Data. Better data produces highly performant models. This isn't lost on us either. We have, I believe, finally done intelligent data collection done right. And I say that because, unfortunately, there are a lot of actors inside of, and participants inside of this space. People that are making products and services that are very much real and affecting millions of people. And the reality is not all of these are, I would say, playing fairly by the rules. Or more specifically, they're surreptitiously collecting training data from their customers' devices without the customer being explicitly aware. And I don't want to say this is illegal, right? This might be baked into the terms of service. But is it obvious to the customer? Debatable. We wanted to flip that on its head. When we built this, we built it with privacy first. It's opt-out by default, meaning no Meraki cameras are automatically being collected from whatsoever. Not before, not after. Customers have the ability to go in and very easily opt into this service. They can select one or more cameras, and they can also then manage and see that life cycle as we're curating data from their cameras to be able to have complete control end to end. If they ever need to opt out, we give them the easy controls to do so. I'll show that in a moment. The last point here that I wanted to highlight, although there's many more I could talk about, is the consciousness of consumption of bandwidth. With a lot of these services, you might just fire hose it, right? I'm grabbing everything and then eventually I'll find something useful. Because we have an intelligent edge process plus cloud, we have the ability to look at that metadata, right? For those cameras that are opted in, we know when motion metadata happened. We know when there were object detections. We know when there were other interesting events, significant lighting level changes that enable us to be able to collect data that matters most. That is, statistically speaking, going to produce the highest probability of data that we need to actually retrain our models on. We only collect what we need and nothing more. I'm going to quickly dive into our dashboard and showcase what this looks like from the customer's perspective. This is a network that is a production network that we have a partnership with just down the road with like a recreational facility. It's called Spark Social, SF. And they're an interesting kind of location in that one side's purely food park, and the other is food park plus like a putt-putt course, right? A putt-putt course and circles around it. And I choose this one because, sorry if my mouse will play along with me, I really like the visuals from this set of cameras. Going back to diversity of data is key. If we take a look at this particular camera, we'll see that it's, I don't know, sometime midday now in San Francisco, and we're going to see people playing putt-putt, I assumed, right? Does do every one of our customers have a Chinese red dragon putt-putt course inside of their environment? No, of course not. But what do they have? They've got dynamic shadows. They've got cameras that are mounted at different heights. They've got indoor and outdoor. They've got object occlusions. They've got all of the different parameters. They've got these really interesting colors inside this space that really help us to make sure that our object detection is robust inside any myriad environment that we can throw at it. Getting to the point, and getting back to the point of intelligence training, our customers can very quickly opt in by seeing this banner as a one-time banner at the top of their dashboard. It gives them a quick insights into help us improve our object detection accuracy. Here's how we're going to collect data. Here's how you can stop sharing data. And here's how much bandwidth we anticipate we're going to use in order to get this thing started. Once I hit continue, and apologies, I'm going to reload this page because I think it got stale on me. Once we hit continue on this pane, we'll see either thumbnail view, so I can easily identify what cameras I am opting in, or if it's pertinent, I might also be able to see the list view and see the serial number of these devices. But in either scenario, you can select all, and I can confirm selection, and then I'm presented with my automation collection agreement. Very upfront about the terms of service and who has ownership over the data, that we are licensees for this data, and moreover, that when you delete your data, here is exactly the steps that we're going to do. Whenever you say, delete my data, to Meraki, here's all the steps we're going to do to be able to make sure that we delete that from all systems that we have that data hosted inside of. I'm going to go ahead and hit agree and opt in, and it's going to take me to our intelligence training dashboard, so to speak. This showcases all of the cameras that are registered inside of this network, and I can very easily see the name and other identifiable information on the camera. But pertinent to this service, I can see the quantity of frames, the oldest item that was collected, the date of the newest item that was collected, as well as the date that this camera was opted into the program. And we can see here that the total number of frames is capped at 240. Again, diversity of data, we do not want to over-rotate, we don't want to overtrain on a singular camera or environment. So capping that makes sense for us and for the customer. Getting finally to the last point here, if I need to opt a camera out, I can select one or more from this list or select all very simply if I needed to. And then if I need to remove frames, say a security event happened last week, theft, any sort of scenario you can imagine. And I need to make sure that no data is persisted inside of this training data for legal reasons. I can select that date and time range, or if I want to be extra cautious, Meraki, just delete all of it. You can start fresh from here, but I need you to get rid of every piece that you collected. And if I want to opt out that camera, it's 2 clicks away. We just simply ask for confirmation, and then it's gone. Simple as that. What I'm thrilled about is we launched this with no fanfare. We didn't do a marketing post. We did it completely transparently. People just saw it inside of their dashboard, as you would expect with all of the other new innovations that we deliver inside of our dashboard for just ongoing value that we add to our customers. And what I love most about this story is that without even publicizing this, our customers have read through all the documentation, and they have, since our silent launch mid-December, we've seen 1,000 different customers with over 5,000 customer cameras and over 600,000 images that have been collected into this service. And this matters for both our customers as well as our ecosystem partners, because ultimately, people don't want to have to worry about how the sausage is made. They just want to know that I can trust the data that's coming out of my Meraki cameras, and I can then build applications on top of that. Now, we offer people and vehicle detection as services for video intelligence on the edge today. But what if you could do more? And this is the thing I'm most excited to share with you today. What if you could use your cameras to detect objects that are unique to your company's needs? You're no longer restricted to the analytics that we out of the box offer, and then you can develop analytic solutions based on your unique business challenges. This is the next step for camera as a sensor for Meraki. This is use cases beyond security surveillance, right? This is enabling our customers and eco partners alike to be able to take custom ML models and deliver them directly to our edge in the same way that we do via this new service, an extension, of our service called nVSense Custom CV. We deliver this quickly and efficiently, as I'd shown before, via MQTT detections to again deliver those net new business insights. Another quick just expansion view into this, input video stream comes into your ML model. Before that's ours, right? That's people, vehicle, motion. It is an OR operation, right? We disable our core analytic services in order to afford as much compute as is possible for our customers or ecosystem partners' models to run directly on the edge. And then subscribing to that telemetry is the exact same pub-sub relationship that we had before. This enables different use cases such as PPE detection, right? Can I use my security cameras to now monitor for good safety compliance on a construction site for safety goggles, hard hats, you name it. Inventory monitoring. What's my shelf space look like? What's my customer's shopping behaviors? Product quality detection. If I have an input and an output to a consistent process, how do I make sure that my manufacturing process, whatever that product may be, is as efficient as possible while producing as little waste as is possible? And I want to zoom in on this last example and talk about pizzas. On Super Bowl Sunday alone, an estimated 12.5 million pizzas are sold inside the US. Pizza joints operate on very thin margins, right? Between 10 to 20%. They cannot afford inefficiencies or food waste. And if you're one of the major players in the US market, you're producing across your thousands of locations, somewhere on the order of 2 to 2.5 million pizzas just on that day. How do you, as that entity, have a single pane of glass view to understand in real time what your cook time is, right? Is your cook time right? Are your shopping and distribution right? And ultimately, are your pizzas burnt? What can you do about it, right? Actionable insights. I don't want to say you can't do this today. You absolutely can with existing tech, but it's complicated. This is an expanded view of what that might look like. You've got servers inside of every one of your pizza locations, and you've got cameras that are streaming constantly to those servers. You have somebody that's administrating those servers, of course, but they're also administering then the ML model or models that are being pushed to that device. And over time, those models then will produce those burnt pizza detections, and they'll centralize that data in some manner and then to finally deliver that as a single payload for that service inside of my overall business insights architecture. What if I could just do that directly on the edge of the camera? Pizza detection model running on the camera, insights directly into my end-use applications. We eliminate complexity and we simplify with NV Sense Custom CV. I want to quickly do a demo. Again, going back to dashboard, we're doing it live. This is my personal network here, literally surrounding myself with this. And I'll quickly showcase, hello. Not only am I doing it live, but I wanted to showcase exactly what I'm doing. So this camera that you see on this other view is connected wirelessly, and it's our smallest form factor, right? This is the MV2. It's targeted to the SMB. It's at a price point that is competitive within that industry, such that you have edge intelligence at a price point that you can afford, while still having that enterprise grade camera system that is cloud managed. All the smarts and parts that are inherent to our platform, you get in this small package. So with that being said, I'll close this, go back to my live video stream, and I'm actually going to take you through what the settings look like first. If I were to see this in a native state, right? We see NVSense API, and then if you're familiar with this page, this is the new option, custom CV. And whenever I hit enabled on this service, it provides me with this update, right? We want to make sure that customers understand our core analytics services will be disabled in favor of your camera operating as camera as a sensor and doing as much as it can with the ML model that you provide. After you agree and continue, you can then select that model. And I'm going to select this MobileNet SSD model. To start, detection threshold is a custom config parameter. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And while that's pushing down to my camera, I'm going to quickly dive into what that actual model upload flow looks like, and actually then submitting this down to a camera. What I'll do here is showcase maybe a different one. I was going to do cup detection, but I am actually developing a cat detection model of my own for reasons I can't go all the way into, maybe if there's time. But suffice it to say, I want to do cat detection, right? So I give it a name. I selected the zip. It has to be a TF-Lite model today, and it has to be under 40 megabytes. There's more operating parameters, and I'll answer questions if there's time enough for it. But TF-Lite is what we started with because it's open source, and it's readily available for a lot of our customers and eco partners. I'm going to go ahead and upload artifact. And while that's doing so, what's happening here is we're uploading this to a secure object store that we maintain on behalf of the customer. And we have signature, just a ton of security end-to-end, let's just say, for simplicity's sake. But what we're also then doing is we're monitoring for that status. That object store, once it receives the payload, it's then validating Does it have all the right parts? Is it named correctly? Can it be pushed down to the camera and run? And if there's any issues, it's going to let me know that here. But what we should see here momentarily is a ready. And when it's telling me that ready status, it's saying, I'm now ready for you to ship this to any of your cameras. This is just the front end UI. We do have APIs, and we expect that at bulk, right? For your tens to hundreds of cameras, your thousands of cameras, you're not doing this from the front end. You're doing this via APIs, and you're doing it in an automated fashion. But to get started, this is important. This is important to understand exactly what you can do. And then I could select my cat detection, and away we'd go. I'm going to pivot over to now this MobileNet SSD. And the reason I chose this model is because, as a callback, this model is a very lightweight model that's trained on that Coco data set. So it has 80 plus classes. And as we can see, it's detecting me as a person. I've got a visualization on my dashboard here. And one of the fun things I wanted to showcase is with this model, at least, those multitude of different classes, right? We can see that it's grabbing cell phone. So I've got new object classes. And occasionally you might have seen it was trying to flip between cell phone and surfboard. This serves to one of my points. This model is not optimized for our platform, and it's also not optimized for an actual practical business use case. And this takes me back into the slides of what if you can't build the model yourself? How do you go about building a model if you know you've got a problem? If you're a customer and you're trying to get to an outcome, what do? Well, I'm excited to announce our partnership and investment into Cogniac. We have partnered with Cogniac as a platform provider for a no-code visual intelligence platform that simplifies this whole process. From end to end, you don't need to be a developer. You can collect a series of frames, and via our cameras, it's really easy to do so. Open API spec, or you can just simply go to your dashboard and hit, I want to grab that snapshot, and it downloads it directly to your desktop. You can upload those images directly to their platform, and over just a very short seed, between 50 to 100 annotated and labeled images, it can immediately then start to intuit, right? That ML AI assisted workflow, it can automate then the process for then annotating all the rest of that data, as well as then generating that model that is optimized for specifically our platforms to be able to run on the edge. What this does is it eliminates that creation phase from having to be a part of both our customer as well as some of our ecosystem partners. Business logistics. Not all of our eco partners are set up to do this service, or at least not to do it at the scale that might be so diverse across a myriad of different endless use cases. And so by taking that problem statement to AI model generation and leveraging Cogniac to service this, our marketplace as well as our customers can focus on those actual business outcomes. Once I've got the model, how do I then make the best use of it? That's the end of my presentation. This did actually launch just yesterday, so it's highly topical. And it's available for all NVSense licenses. So if you've got an NV camera, you can go to your dashboard today. It does require beta firmware, but you select beta firmware, and then you should be able to deploy a custom MLCV model directly to the edge of your camera and get started.
You were talking about using it for PPE detection, which probably suggests an industrial site. Do you have like any ruggedized cameras or anything like that for this?
Ruggedized, yes. Explosion proof, no. So depending upon the nature of the facility, we don't have like X-proof, NEMA rated for say, oil and gas as an industry per se. There are enclosures that you can purchase that are third-party manufacturer to encase or surround our cameras, much like you could with any other third party. But what I will say is our MV72 and MV72X, as well as our MV52, those are all hardened to outdoor. They're IP67, IK10 rated, so vandal resistant. Quite literally, we have videos of George Bentic, former product manager, now director of all of IoT, taking a bat to these guys, and they're going to withstand that. I wouldn't recommend it on repeat use, but they're pretty ruggedized.